Welcome back, everybody. Time again for another episode of CRM Radio Today, the only show taking a look at the ever-changing, ever-growing CRM space today and tomorrow, with the man who's been there from the beginning, Paul Petersen. Hey, Paul.
Hi, Paul.
You know, one of the things I'm always amazed at, we tell people about this show a lot, and somehow everybody says, well, CRM, we've been there and done that. Is it still an ever-evolving space, or have we moved on and just assumed that everybody has some sort of CRM? You obviously, through Goldmine, were one of the earlier pioneers, and you're still one of the leading players in the field. But does it continue to evolve? Do we continue to find new uses and new technologies and new ideas of how to simply gather in this data?
It's a great question. If you look at it from one perspective, it's a bit of a commodity at this point. You know, record keeping, contact management, and so forth. But where some of the stuff we're working on. Secret, hint, but, you know, machine learning, big data. So there's more than record keeping. That's an important part of it, and knowing who you're talking to and who you want to talk to. But there is this element of what can we learn from that data. So, you know, the leaders are investing in that a little bit. But the interest for me, being at Goldmine for 19 years, was to, at the time I was at Symantec and all working with enterprise sales, and it was how do I bring some of this technology to the more modest, business. So that's what we're looking to do, right? So we may not be the most original, but we're going to find a way to get it implemented. Let's talk to Gene Marks. Hi, Gene. Gene and I go back quite a ways. Both came out of what at the time was Big 8. Eventually, Gene, you went on to be a consultant for businesses getting into networking early, and have been a Goldmine consultant and thus CRM for over 20 years. You and I sat on the advisory council, CRM, email, So what I thought might be interesting is, given your CRM breadth of experience, this is not a commercial for Goldmine, we all spend a lot of time trying to convince people to start CRM. But I thought you've seen over the 20 years clients that have implemented it. We know Goldmine customers, for example, that once you get it started, you run it for 7-8 years. That's not uncommon to hear, and longer. Sure. But I was just sort of wondering, how successful has CRM been overall? And then what do you think is the next thing people should be doing? Or I sort of wanted to get into some trends and say, hey, we do one thing and then we sort of get stuck and they don't move to the second. And I wondered if there was any takeaways from that said, yeah, most people do really well at getting this far, but here's where they start to lag.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. I know you're going to share a lot of the things that I'm about to say, and by all means jump in. But, for starters, we have some clients that have just been fantastic successes with CRM, have used it really, really well, and I'll get to the details of what I mean by that in a minute, but just really great stuff. And then we've had a lot of clients that have just failed miserably with it, projects that ended in tears and yelling and profanity, and we've learned a lot from all of that. And I can tell you, when I gauge the success of a company using the CRM application, it always comes down, Paul, as you know, to like the culture and the company, right? I mean, it's the people that adopt it as their thing, as their DNA, are the ones I know that succeed with it the most. I mean, they not only invest in the software, but they realize that the software doesn't run by itself, so they invest in the people and make sure they have good administrative support internally and good outsiders that are helping them with consulting and making sure that they're getting out of it what they want to get out of it. And my best clients, Paul, and I don't know if you see the same thing, but they use maybe 30% of their CRM application. I mean, some of these applications come with so much stuff, and people kind of get all crazy with the customizations and integrating it, and they wanted to. And it's like, you know what? If it's the people that I know that buy it for a specific purpose, a specific return on investment. It's no different than any asset that they purchase. They learn, those are the ones that use it the best. And I've also noticed something else, and I don't know if you've seen this as well, Paul, but over the past few years, as my clients have gotten older and have looked to exit, sell their businesses, the ones that have good CRM systems, good, clean, tight databases, are actually able to get a higher selling price for their businesses because of the CRM data that comes along with it, because we live in a big data world.
Well, you're buying a customer base, and it's better than knowing that it's on a computer is much better than a filing cabinet. And I think Paul wants to pay the bills, so we're going to do that now, and then we'll come back and let's drill into a little bit more detail when we're speaking with Gene Marks, CRM expert, small business expert, and longtime business advisor. Thanks, Paul.
We know you rely on your CRM system, and it's usually a love-hate relationship. Most CRM systems, well, let's face it, they're expensive. They're hard to understand. People don't use them properly. And you're probably paying for features that you don't even want. If that's your case, then maybe it's time to simplify. It's time to get more from your CRM. Why don't you go back to the original? Trust Goldmine. We helped pioneer the industry, after all. Goldmine CRM is, well, it's simple, it's affordable, and it's proven. If all those sound appealing to you, if you're just tired of the CRM headaches that you're getting from trying to implement something that's just too complicated, too expensive, and too much for you to figure out, then why not go back to the original? Visit Goldmine today, goldmine.com. All right, back to Paul and his fellow Beatles fan.
The fifth Beatle.
The fifth Beatle, I like that.
The fifth Beatle. So we're speaking with Gene Marks of the Marks Group. And, Gene, one of the things I've seen is that companies that have implemented Goldmine and other CRMs sort of buy into this is our filing cabinet of customers and prospects, the record for that. And what would you say is the number one business function, though, that people are using CRM for, other than sharing, phone number, the phone numbers and aspects? It was interesting. Many people would say, they're using. A few years ago, people would say, I'm only using 5% of the product, and you just said that they're using 30%. So that's an increase. So we're going to take that as a rule of thumb. But where did they start? Building out the most from your experience, where it's had the most impact on the business?
I'll tell you. One of the secrets that I found with these CRM systems is because they're databases, the people that I've learned from the most are using these systems for reporting purposes. So you ask, what is the main business function that people get out of it? I'll tell you a quick story. About 3 or 4 times a year, I get a call from a sales manager or a VP of sales or somebody that's in that line, and they'll be like, hey, Gene, I've been using this CRM system. Maybe it's Goldmine, and I'm leaving the company. I'm starting up at another company. I got 5 or 10 people that are reporting to me. I need you to come on in. I need you to set up the same CRM system that I had before, because that's what I know, and I need these 3 reports coming at it, because that's how I manage my group. And I get these calls a few times a year, because these are people that know exactly what they want from this tool. And the number one report that they all seem to want is the opportunity report. And the opportunity report is nothing more than a pipeline, because any salesperson or any sales manager that's trying to just track what's going on in their sales pipeline, a lot of them are doing it using spreadsheets. And when they put in a CRM system, the smart ones realize that they can replace the spreadsheets with what's in the system and also provide a lot more data than they were getting out of a spreadsheet. So when they come to me and they say, we're gonna do this, we want to replace our spreadsheets, or we want to make sure that we have these same kind of pipeline reports going on, what they realize is that they're using the system with a specific return on investment. So they're like, by having this opportunity report, this pipeline report coming out, it's giving me all the information I need about not only deals coming up, but also who last spoke to this person, what's our next action, who's responsible, what's the value of the deal. The pipeline report, to me, has been the biggest return on investment, the biggest business use of a CRM system right out of the box. A lot of times people try to make these systems into what they're not. They are really at the core a tracking system of activities and opportunities and deals. That's like the first thing that you want to get your arms around before you expand the use to other functionality. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does, and I think we've observed it. And I think one other little tweak, I mean, in the old, quote-unquote, the old days or years past, the sales managers were the leading person to make contact and to say, hey, I need something. And there was also a little bit of a policing aspect when CRM first started out. I need to how many calls people are making. Fortunately, I've seen that drop, right? And they're now focusing on, as you say, the opportunity. It's the lifeblood of the company, whether you're small or large. The larger, the harder it is to compile spreadsheets. But even a medium-sized business should be keeping track of what's in the top of the funnel, what's in the middle of the funnel. And I have always sort of said, use that as an agenda, the sales agenda for coaching, right? To each individual rep. Here's how you need to work more on getting some new deals in the pipeline while you close these, or hey, what do you need to close these final ones down? So that's been good. I don't know if you've seen this, but from our perspective, we have seen marketing people show up at the meeting a little bit more. What have you experienced that in your across your product line?
It's funny, the marketing people, the issue that I find with marketing people when they look at CRM systems is that they all want them. And they all want them because they want the data that's in the CRM system. Because obviously if the data is really good, they can slice and dice it and use it, for their campaigns and other things they want to do. In reality, you know what I find, and this is particularly at smaller or medium-sized companies, the marketing people are relying on data that the salespeople are producing. And unfortunately, the marketing people don't always supervise or have authority over the salespeople. So whenever I see like a marketing person that's trying to drive the implementation of a CRM system or comes up with the idea of it, I'm always a little bit wary about it because I'm thinking to myself, how's this person going to get this 10-person sales team to do what he or she wants them to do when they're reporting to somebody else? So the marketing people want it, right? They show up to these meetings, but sometimes I just feel like they don't have the ability to get what they want out of the system because they're not working close enough or have the authority over the people that are actually doing the data entry. You know what I mean?
Sure. And I was going to ask, have you seen any I'll call it examples of or bad behavior or things that you would like people to avoid if let's say you have CRM, what are some things that you like? So like you mentioned, okay, marketing doesn't have control over the sales data, so they really shouldn't implement it, but that they have a role, they have a seat at the table. But are there any other things that you've seen that have gone horribly awry?
I'll tell you my biggest pet peeve, and this is after 20 years, is I hate freaking weak people, particularly weak managers. When people, here's, for example, a few years ago, we implemented a CRM system at a client of ours. They were near Harrisburg. They had about 60 users of the system. They were doing everything on, it's a bigger company. They were doing everything on spreadsheets. Their big thing was call reports. They had salespeople all over the world, and they were sending in their activity reports for the week on Word documents and manual, lists and toilet paper and whatever. And the VP of sales said, listen, we need to get a CRM system so everybody can put the information all into one place, and then we can just push a button and generate those call reports ourselves here and save a lot of time and be more productive. Okay. So these guys spent about 6 figures on their CRM system. They flew all the salespeople in from all over the world. We set it up. We did all the training. Everybody's happy. We're high-fiving, hugging and kissing each other. This is great. And then all the salespeople went back to where they were. And Paul, many of them just kept doing what they were doing before. They were like, this system, the screen is blue, and I thought it would be green. Or this was taking me a little bit too much time. I like doing it my way, the old way. And the VP of sales just caved. He's like, oh, okay, my guy in England isn't happy with it, so I'll just let him keep going on sending in the reports the way he was. And my other guy in Brazil has got a problem with the way it looks, so I'm going to let him. And basically the whole system fell apart. I mean, they never got it. And I come across this stuff all the time, and I'm sure you do as well, where you've got
we see
executives.
That scares me as a provider. It's when I say, oh, we're going to have the end users evaluate, and I go, oh, boy. While it has to be built for end users to be efficient and give them some benefit, they get into, it doesn't look like they're not skilled at picking a system that supports workflow. I had one follow-up question here that, so of all the range of products, and you're familiar with all, and we don't try to be everything, but is there a place for I'll call it simple CRM, or at what point should you start worrying about integration with, say, something like QuickBooks? So you're very familiar with accounting systems. Had sponsored a QuickBooks integration at some point. There's other integrations, but at what point should the company move beyond the CRM sort of out of the box and integrate with something else? What are your recommendations there and observations?
First of all, I'll tell you this much. 80% of the companies that I come across can't even maintain a shared calendar without there being fistfights around it, or data that's not being lost, or stuff that's not being put in the right way. So, you got to graduate high school before you go on to college. Some people talk about integrating. Yeah, we want to get the CRM system and integrate it with QuickBooks and integrate it with our website and customize to do this and that. And meanwhile, I'm like, yeah, but your salespeople aren't even putting in simple follow-ups or using it properly with their email system. How can you even do all of this stuff, right?
So
simple CRM. Everybody needs.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, one last story at a meeting we had where they were going to build this complex system. It was to get quotes done. And I said, why do you need these quotes so quickly? Well, it's discount approvals. And I looked at the owner and I said, you're about to spend $100,000 to give away money faster.
Right.
And he looked at me and he went, why would we do that? And I didn't win the sale, obviously, but we saved him $100,000. Someday I hope he'll call me.
Sometimes it helps to be honest, Paul, and that's why you're good at what you do, is because you're giving people real-world advice. And, I think a lot of people, when they're looking to implement a CRM system, should stop with the 30 or 60-day implementation and turn that into a 12 to 24-month implementation. Rome was not built in a day, and if you're committed to this system, you're going to have it for a number of years. So have a good quarterly plan of specific objectives that you want to accomplish each quarter, and keep it
continual
simple,
improvement.
Keep it something that you can accomplish, right?
All right. Well, Gene, that went by really fast, and at some point I'm going to invite you back. And but I would like to say you have a wealth of opportunity. What's the best place for somebody to start to tap into your content?
Oh, the best place to go is follow me on Twitter. I would say it's at Gene Marks, GeneMarks, and all the stuff I'm writing is on there, as well as lots of CRM stuff as well.
All right. Well, Gene, great to catch up, and at some point we'll love to have you come back and talk a little bit about the trends in small business, for example, and follow up. So, Paul, with that, we have 8 inches of snow, but it is sunny, so I'm going to say surf's up.
You've been listening to another episode of CRM Radio today, right here on the Funnel Radio Network for at-work listeners like you.